Hello and welcome to another episode of the 91 podcast. On today's episode, we have a man who is a speaker, a mentor, a corporate MC, and also an author. And he's none other than Mr. Victor Dauda Tarfa. Welcome, Victor. It's nice to have you in the studio.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always exciting to have a sit down, have a conversation, and yeah, I'm looking forward to having great fun.
So tell me, Victor, what's it like being a speaker? What exactly does it entail?
Well, I think for being a speaker, I think it's, for me, I can say kicks off with more of passion, basically. It's like you have a message. How do you say this message? Somebody needs to hear the message. And I think that's where it kicks it all off. People express themselves in different ways. Some choose writing, some choose, so they can all write books, some might do blogs, but mine was mainly speaking as in, okay, I need to go to an audience and share this message. And I think to me, that's what kicked it all out. So I think speaking comes with passion, and it's something that you could think and say, okay, can I learn it, or does it come naturally? I think for me, to a very large extent, I'll say it comes naturally. It's like dancing, as in.
So you have to have that voice, right?
Yeah,
To be
if
you don't have a voice, how are you?
You can not have the voice, and you can still do it, because well, when it comes to speaking, it's like singing, it's voice training too. So if training needs to be done, you can train to be a speaker too.
Really, you could train to have the voice. Isn't it like the radio voice in a way?
Yeah.
Isn't it something you naturally just have to have?
You see, I think the example I always give is dancing, because I can't dance to save my life now. But the thing is, there's some people in which even when they move, you can tell, wow, this person is a very good dancer. So I think it's the same as speaking too, as in literally I can put a speech together. In fact, a good example was the short TED Talk I did. It was literally strung together in less than 15, 20 minutes.
Wow.
You understand? And it was supposed to be a 1 minute speech, and you had to get it in within 1 minute. And my thinking was, I have to deliver a message that would inspire people. I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't ready. Opportunity just came up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to jump to this. And I was able to structure a decent speech. And how I knew I had a good speech was I was on my way home at the train station, and this group of people were like, that's the guy. I'm like, ooh, I was feeling like a superstar, actually.
What was the speech about? What was the TED Talk?
It was just a very short talk. You know, I went to support someone who had a TED Talk. And then they now said, okay, now they needed 6 people to come and deliver a 1 minute TED Talk. So normally with TED Talks, it's long processes of applying and practices, and so much goes into it.
Yeah, you wanted to.
And then I was sitting right at the top, and I thought to myself, before I get down to that stage to meet the woman and put my name down, it's going to take ages. And then I just sort of gave up. I was like, nah, it's not going to happen. So then after we went for a break, she was like, okay, let me go and find the woman and just tell her anyway. So I went down looking for her. I just bumped into her. I was like, oh, hang on, I need to put my name down. She's like, oh, that reminds me. No one has put their name down yet. I'm like, oh, surprisingly.
So you shot your shot.
Yeah, exactly. It was more or less, opportunity came up, I just went for it.
Took it. Yeah.
So then I was now thinking, okay, fine, this is an opportunity to stand at TED Talk stage. So much goes into it.
Yeah.
I can't just go up there and just say anything I want to say. So I now thought, I said, you know what, I need to construct an inspirational speech, something that's going to inspire the people within in under 1 minute, 60 seconds basically. Because once you get 60 seconds, the mic is going to go off.
Wow.
And the thing about speaking is, if you don't conclude and finish your speech, you don't really get the message out to people the way it's supposed to be. And that's one thing in which a lot of speakers are, when they don't keep to time and they cut them off halfway, they now start rushing the end, and then it loses its taste the way it's supposed to be. So I had to make sure I delivered within that 60 seconds, which I actually did, actually. So it's why I think it's only 1 minute. I think it's somewhere on my Instagram page, and I think it's... It was a quite interesting one, I'll say.
But what did you actually talk about in that 1 minute that made people go, oh, that's a speaker?
In the 1 minute, what I spoke about mainly was the fact that when the opportunity came up, I was up there. And I felt within myself that, you know what, there's no way I'm going to get all the way down to that stage and get my name on the list. But I decided to give it a shot. So it's the same as life. We look at ourselves from a distance and say, I can't achieve this. There's no way I'm going to do this. And then obviously, I went. Secondly, I was talking about when I was getting ready to go to attend the TED Talk, just go and watch. My wife said to me, put on something nice. You never know. They might ask you to speak. And I said to her, nah, absolutely no way. Do you know how much it takes to do a TED Talk? And then I said to her, at the end, and I concluded by saying, men, always listen to your wife. You know, and exactly. So
that must have been transformational.
Exactly, so and then there, everyone busted out laughing. So that was a memorable end to it, because everyone sort of thought, you know what, this is really good, you know, because if I didn't listen, if I just thought, because if I wasn't dressed nicely, I would have thought, you know what, I don't want to stand on the stage just wearing
you don't want to embarrass yourself. People need to
exactly. So the fact that I was okay, I knew I was looking nice with what I wore. So I listened to my wife, and the fact that I put myself out there, even though thinking that there's no way on this earth it's going to happen, and then the opportunity came right in my face. And I think it was more of that inspiration that people sort of remembered. You know what? There are many times in which we don't take that shot because we believe that we just can't do it. And surprisingly, that was a good example of taking a shot and actually doing it. Yeah.
Wow. And it's funny that all your whole talk was just about you like preparing and getting ready for that one moment.
Exactly.
And yet it still blew people away.
Blew people away. And the amazing thing is also, which someone listening to this might take away, which is a bit of an inspiration, is the fact that I said, I was kind of best, which I decided, okay, fine, TED Talks, got to apply for them, got to do different things. But not that I was being arrogant. I just said, you know what, I want to build myself. It was all about challenging myself to grow, basically. I said, I want to build myself to a level in which, because there's some TED Talks in which they actually invite people to come and speak, while there's some in which you apply. And I said, I want to build myself up to a stage in which I get invited to come and speak, not me actually applying to actually to speak. I know, and that was sort of weird. So where that one came was more or less just a case of, it was more like, who wants to do a 1 minute talk? So it's more or less being an invitation. So whether I'm going to, well, I'm still building myself. I'm still hoping for the day in which I'll do a full one. But my target mainly is not from a place of arrogance anyway. Listen, just to inspire somebody. So from a place of, you know what, I want to get myself to a stage in which I can deliver so much value to the world. So it's more of a personal challenge than anything else. Deliver so much value to the world that the world will be like, you know what, Victor, we want to hear you. And they invite me in to come and say, okay, fine, come and do a talk for us for 30 minutes or whatever it is. And that's the kind of way that's sort of focus. So it's just a personal challenge for me about me becoming, growing personally so I can inspire more people in the world. And I think that's what it is.
Just based on that, your TED Talk anyway, can you give us some tips on how to prepare ourselves to be able to take the shot when that opportunity comes?
Yeah, that is a very, very great question, because the only way I could put a speech together, to string a speech together that was, which I believe was quite impactful, was because, you know, there's these basic tactics to speaking. There are basic rules you follow. And once you know those rules, it helps you so that anytime you can put a speech together straight away.
Sorry, what are those rules?
And that's what I'm about to tell you now.
Okay.
So the rules. She can't wait to hear the rules.
Can't wait.
That's good, actually. So the main thing about speaking is, which could be divided into 3 different parts, basically. So the most important thing, obviously, is the introduction, the main body, and the conclusion. And that's mainly what I did there. So the first thing I thought to myself was, how do I introduce this talk? You know, that was the first stage. And then second, I thought about, okay, fine, how do I deliver the message? And then how do I conclude? Because mainly is about, the introduction is mainly about, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you. Then the middle is more or less, I'm going to tell you what I said I'm going to tell you. Then at the end is, I'm going to just summarize what I just told you now. Okay. So it's more or less in that kind of format. So once you have that format in your head every single time, you can string a speech together very, very quickly. And because I said to you, for me, speaking is learnable. But for me, I think to a very large extent, it comes naturally. So because it comes naturally for me, which I tend to find it quite easy to actually do compared to how other people actually, because when people talk about preparing for a speech, you have to stand for the mirror and read it 10 times or 50 times and all that thing. I'm thinking, how do you do that? And I know that if I was a terrible speaker, I wouldn't have been invited back to so many places I've been invited back to. Because normally with speaking, if you speak somewhere and they never call you back again, then that's a good sign that, look, I might have not done a good talk there. You know, so it's not all the time, but the times in which you sort of think, why didn't they call me back there? It's good to sort of sit back and review and see reasons possibly why I didn't. So the thing is, because when you build around that, the 3, once you just get that frame into your head and you start from there, you'd be amazed at how you can constantly build. So because I had that in my head, that was the key thing. Secondly, I have to make sure that you have a message. It's not about you, it's about them. What can they learn from what you're actually talking about? So in as much as I shared, all I did was just share an experience that I had in that room. That's all I did. My experience for that day in that room, that's all I shared. And when I shared that experience, I broke it down to 3. And obviously it's good to always throw in something funny. And the last part was, men, always listen to your wives. That is very, very relatable because, well, I'm sure the men here, several times the wives always say to them, I told you,
yes.
told you. Because exactly, and sometimes women just have this way of instincts of seeing things that we don't see.
Yes, before men even see.
Exactly, before we even see, exactly. And that's why we have to listen to them a bit more. So you have a way of seeing things, because I couldn't even think of from where she even thought about saying to me, yeah, I'll put him a nice jacket or a nice thing because you don't know, they might invite you to stage. And I actually thought back, like, nah, there's absolutely no way. You know, and when I came back, she was like, I told you. You know, because obviously it was more or less, I told you. You know, so it's the kind of way we have to start listening to. So that men listen to your voice was like I finished with that. And so it was very, very memorable because everyone laughed at the end when I said it, and all the men there could relate to it, and all the women looking at the men are all telling them, yeah, you see. So the message was more or less wasn't about me. It was focused about them. What can they learn? What can they take from there? I think the mistake a lot of speakers possibly make most of the time when they talk is it's all about them telling you. And, you know, we got to remember, yes, you can share personal stories, but you have to coin the words in a way that you're pushing the message out to the people. This is how I can inspire those people. Because I believe after that short talk, many people went away thinking, you know what, actually, In fact, I'm sure there were people in that room who thought of also doing the same thing, but they felt, nah, there's no way I can do this. And you see, and now to be honest with you, anywhere I go, I'm not saying that if the opportunity comes up again, there's no way I'm going to say, nah, I'm too far up there. I will at least try, because I believe I'd rather try and it doesn't work than not even try at all.
So I wanted to ask you a question. You said, okay, when you're speaking, your message should be about them, not yourself.
Exactly.
So what if you're trying to sell yourself? What if you're trying to sell your market? How are you not going to, focus on yourself?
You can be trying to sell your market, but end of the day, you can be selling your market. But the whole idea about selling your market is the fact that you're selling to the people there. So you're trying to tell them, okay, fine, how can I help you? So let's say you want to sell a coaching service, let's say, okay, I want to help you maybe to teach you how to buy, let's say, real estate or property, as we call it here in England. And if I'm trying to tell you, in as much as I'm trying to show you that I have done it before, I can tell stories based on the fact that I've done it before to show you build that credibility. But you got to be careful. You have to spin it around and show, okay, fine, how does buying real estate help the people in the room? So that's where it has to flip to the other side. So if you carry on talking about your achievements continuously, there's a place for that in speaking, because the times in which you can find is about just sharing your story and your achievements could just inspire people to actually do more. Okay, well, this guy has done it, so sometimes I can do it. There's a place and a time for that. But most of the time, you have to focus on the fact that, fine, in as much as you've done it, you want to show them. It's all about them. Okay, fine. If you buy real estate, this is how your life can change. If you begin to think on a different level, this is how your life can change. And this is how I can help you on the journey to get you where you're trying to get to. So the message has to swing in a way that the person sitting in the room will feel themselves in that space. And you know what? This sounds interesting. I want to give it a shot myself too. But when you sit there and just talk about, okay, me, I bought this one yesterday, and I bought that one yesterday, and I bought that one yesterday, they're looking at it thinking, hang on, you just, how is that helping me? Because we live in a life where everybody says, about what's in it for me? That's the standard thing. So once you approach somebody, the first person is thinking is, okay, you've told me all this stuff, now what's in it for me? And that's one thing we have to remember all the time. What's in it for the people? And that's why even before I share an experience, even as we're talking now, I always say for someone who's out there, hopefully you can inspire them. So somebody who listens to this podcast or watching the podcast and always think, okay, fine, so that catches someone's attention, and the person now, okay, let me stop and get some inspiration. Because now we're not just two people having a conversation. We're sharing experiences quite all right. But still, the important thing is whoever's going to listen to this podcast, whoever's going to watch it, they will get something out of it, because end of the day, it's all about them and inspiring them on their journeys.
And this is the same technique you use when you're speaking in church, is it?
Exactly, yes. So even when I'm speaking in church, it's the same thing too. So yes, the message is all to God and all about God, but we have to look at it, what's in it for them. So this is your God they're talking about now. If I believe in him and I follow him, what's in it for me? Because human beings just natural. Once you approach someone, the first thing you're thinking about, exactly what I'm going to get out of this. So even when you preach a message, you have to show the people, fine, what? People are sitting down there listening to you, and they're thinking the same thing too. Okay, fine, I'm following this your God now. Hey, yes, you told me about him. So what's in it for me then? What can I get out of following this God that you're talking about? Yeah.
So I want to hear a bit about your book.
Yeah.
So can you tell me, is that your first book?
Yeah, it's the first one. I've been talking about the second one for so long.
So give us the title. What's the title of your book?
So the book is called Seasons of Life, and like I say, it's life has seasons, and we all have to agree. And I think it's just a way of talking about life's experiences, but using natural seasons. So I love to, whatever I do, I like to go back into nature, because I believe to a large extent, if you want to really understand humanity and everything else, because I believe the only difference between us and anything else in this world is God gave us the power to choose as human beings. Dogs don't have choice. Goats don't have choice. Listen, but we have a mind. We have choice. We can choose, and that's the power that we have that makes us different. So if we can have a mindset, we can choose to think in a certain way. So whatever anyone says, no, I think this way. No, you chose to think that way, and that's what it is. So because we have the power of choice, that's what makes it different from everybody else. So every time I like to go back into nature, where okay, this is where it's bare now. This is the foundation of everything now. Okay, a tree. What happens to a tree? Okay, you put seed in the ground, you put water on it, what happens? Yes, it's gonna grow. And if you put that seed, if you plant corn, what do you expect? Expect to get corn. But with human beings, to a large extent, because we have that choice, you can actually plant corn in someone's mind, and end of the day, you can end up getting something else out of it. You see? So let's give an example now. If I can give, it's like same as like money now. Money can be used for good stuff. So I can give you money as a seed, and you can use it to do good stuff. I can give someone money as a seed, and you can use it to do terrible things.
Yeah,
you can use it to go and buy drugs, you can use it to just ruin their lives. Or I can give someone money as a seed, and the person goes out there and helps people. He maybe buys good books to read. Maybe he goes and buys food for people, or he goes and invests it. You understand? So it's the same thing. So humans, because we have that choice, but when you look at nature, okay, fine, I put corn in the ground, only corn is going to grow. I don't expect to find an apple tree when I come back. You see, and that's the difference between when you look at life. That's how different so many things are. So I like to go back to nature, and that's why I call it seasons of life, because life has seasons, and it's about identifying the season that you're in and find those tools to cultivate a better life for you to actually change. So it's just a matter of just using. You can use anything to build life, to break it into life. But I just felt seasons at that particular time of my life was the best thing to use to describe my journey.
So, sorry, you mentioned at that particular time of your life.
Yes.
So what inspired you? What happened at that particular time of your life that made you write this book?
Wow. Well, it was a time in my life I could say we use the word, I could say maybe I was at crossroads. And there are times in life where you get to a point and you're thinking, what do I do next? And you just feel absolutely like you're stuck in a hole, and you're just sitting there thinking, what do I do next? Because you can't even think about it, and you're just feeling lost. And I was at that point in my life in which I was just feeling lost. Obviously, I started speaking. I'd been around a few countries, speaking. I'd sown quite a lot of good seeds, and I started thinking, what next in this whole thing? And the thing about speaking sometimes is you have to be very sacrificial. You have to start by serving others. A lot of people who want to go into speaking just start by saying, okay, man, I want to. When people call them, can you help me speak here? They straight away, no, how much are you going to pay me? And people don't understand that most of the time you have to start, because if I don't know you, I've not seen you speaking before, why do I think I should pay you to do? So because as every speaker, what you need first is a stage. People have to get to a stage where people can see you. So you have to be on a stage. Someone has to give you an opportunity to get onto that stage to be able to speak and share your message. So I must understand that sometimes you have to share that message for free to start with. But that, people think it's free, but in this life, nothing's actually free. Because by you sharing that message, you're building credibility for yourself. You're on the stage, you take a few pictures, you tell people about it. People maybe see you on Instagram or your Facebook page or whatever you're using at the moment. And they think, oh, I saw that guy talking, actually like what I was talking about. Let me call him, come and speak for me too. And that next person might call you, but because you're not really maybe like a seasoned speaker then, he might decide to give you a gift or not. But you have to get to a point where you can feel comfortable saying, okay, fine, I'm going to send you an invoice. So don't just expect that, first day I'm out there, I'm going to send you an invoice. No, it doesn't work that way.
So what happens to the thought of...
You have to build, you see. So I was at this crossroads at where I was standing in the kitchen, sowing all these seeds, and I'm thinking, okay, now I need to do something else. I need to begin to get results from the seeds I'm sowing. Yeah, so you put yourself out there, you can see Instagram and everything else. And most people think of the financial side of it now. So fine, how do I sponsor my way through these whole things? It's at the beginning, it's like education for you anyway, because you need to create that value for people to see, to want you to come and speak for them. So the initial stages, you will have to sponsor yourself. There are times in which you have to sponsor yourself. Even if someone invites you to speak, and the person says, there's an opportunity for you coming up to come on my stage and speak. So it's up to you to think, okay, fine, how big is that stage? Yeah, it's quite a big stage. How much can I put myself out there by doing that? Yeah, I can put up there's a lot can come out of it. Okay, cool, I'll go and do it. Because at the end of the day, you have to create a win-win between you and the person. I've delivered a speech for you, but I've put myself out there so people can see me and I can build credibility. Because if you don't have the credibility, no one's going to pay you for speaking.
What about that,
the financial side?
No, there's a thought process people have. If you value me, you're going to pay me money.
Yeah.
If you value me, you pay me money to come to your stage.
Yes.
And that's what most people are thinking today, especially this generation.
Yeah.
I should be paid for me to come down there.
Yeah.
But also, how do you, let's say you're a speaker, you have family, you have children.
Yeah.
How are you going to be taking care of your family if you're going to places for free?
Well, you see, that's one thing. To be honest with you wouldn't. One thing about it being a speaker is if you look at most speakers around, you see, if you look at people like even like the biggest ones, Tony Robbins, Les Brown, everything else. If you read their stories and look clearly, they always have something else in the background that they're actually doing. Okay. So you wouldn't just break out and just wake up one morning and decide, okay, I'm going to quit everything I'm doing. I'm just going to be a speaker now. Exactly. Now it doesn't work that way. You would have to build first to get to a point where you find I've got this kind of credibility. I'm commanding this kind of payments or this kind of before I now decide, okay, fine, this is what I'm going to do full time. So people you have to really think about it, and you have to think about what do I want to focus on? What was a particular message I want to share? So you have to build all these things first. And to be honest with you as a speaker, if people don't really see you on the stage, because if I shared like my journey, most of it was I'm on this stage, somebody sees me and says, oh, do you want to come here? Yeah, you go here. Do you want to come there? And there are times in which I will speak deliberately. I will not ask for anything paid. There are times in which I will. So it all depends on what it is. And I might even you listen to, like if you go to people that do training for speaking and stuff like that, one thing they always tell you is compiling those videos is most important now. And that's why social media plays a significant role in building. Because when you have several videos, you create a very powerful reel. People can see you have reviews and everything else, and you put it out there. So people can know, well, I saw this guy somewhere, he was really good. Because most people want to see is, okay, fine, yeah, you've spoken where, yeah, let's see. Now, well, do we like what we're seeing? Yes, we do. Okay, fine, yes, we can pay you. And I think that's just the way it works. And being a speaker too, it builds with that credibility for you, because once you even go to an event, once you're on that stage, there are times in which I'll arrive at an event, maybe we're chatting with people here and there, and then just normal conversations, maybe they don't realize maybe you're one of the speakers and everything else. By the time you go on the stage, if you're speaking and you come down, you notice even your interaction with people changes completely. Because now they're seeing you up there, they're like, wow, for this guy to be given this mic to go on this stage, there's massive credibility attached to it. So let's say, whatever you want to do, even business-wise, if there's anything else you want to do, people are more willing to talk to you and interact with you. So it opens doors. So the key thing about speaking is you have to make up your mind, this speaking I'm doing, what am I doing it for? What is the key reason? Is it a means to an end, or is it the end? You understand? So that's the part you've got to think about, you see, because sometimes if it's a means to an end, okay, fine, I'm a speaker because I want to connect to more people, build credibility on the stage, and then open doors for me for other opportunities. Or are you saying, okay, fine, this is what I'm going to do full time. All I'm going to do is speak and speak and speak and get paid for it. So that's what you got to think about when you're trying to be a speaker.
And you do it full time, do you?
So no, for me it's more of, I've got investments too. See, so for me it's more of, it's a bit different, because like I said, for me it became a means to an end, because it builds a credibility for me. It helps me communicate with people better. It's opened networks for me of other people, in which so it opens other doors for other business opportunities for me. And I think that's one thing that's actually done. So the key thing, because it's built massive networks for me, it makes a big difference, because most of my travel, like across Africa and everything else, was speaking and listening. And it connected me to people in which we could do a lot more things with them, apart from just the speaking. So it's all encompasses into all one, you see. So it all depends. So for me, I can say it's a means to an end. And also, it could be the end too, but it depends on what context I'm talking about it.
So when you mentioned your book, you said that you were in a place in life where you felt like, what's next?
Yeah.
So I know in your book you talk about being stuck and frustration.
Exactly.
So can you just explain that a bit more for us?
Yeah. So I was just putting it this way now. Standing in the kitchen, it was a wet, rainy day, and obviously, like, in our kitchen, the way the kettle is sort of like behind me, let's put it that way. And there's a big window in front of me. So I'm just standing there, just looking out the window, like just in gaze, like absolute gaze, like I was dazed and lost. And then obviously normally when the weather is really bad, sometimes it maybe adds to people's annoyance, kind of thing. So I'm just looking out the window. And then the kettle finished boiling, and I didn't even realize, because I was making coffee and the kettle just finished. I didn't realize the kettle had finished boiling. So I'm sitting down there just like, what's going on? Kind of just thinking, okay, what next now? What do I do? And then suddenly I just heard like a word that just came in my head and just said, Victor, why are you trying to sow in your harvest season? And I just stopped like, whoa, why are you trying to sow in your harvest season?
So was that God speaking to you?
Most likely. I'm a Christian, so I can say that was just God's words. Right. Because that statement was a major transformation for me. You see, because I stood there thinking, wow, this is crazy. And I thought, because I was at a point where the crossroads, and I thought, because obviously as a speaker, I said you have to go out there, speak, sometimes free, sometimes they pay you, whichever way it is. But at that point, I'm thinking, okay, fine, I've sown a lot of seeds. It's time to start begetting something out of all these seeds I've sown. But I was sort of thinking, okay, I was still planning and thinking, okay, do I need to go and sow more or not? Is it? But I was feeling out at the point where there's a next level to this. You've got this far, and there's a next level to this, Victor. There must be a next level to this. And that's the point I was. So that just came into my mind like, whoa, this is it now. This is it. And just those words was what triggered the book. And that's why I call it Seasons of Life, because I was in a season of my life where I should have been heading towards a harvest, but I was still busy trying to throw more seeds in the ground. In as much as, because obviously, if you try and plant when the weather has moved on to when people should be harvesting, the seed's not going to grow anyway. So you just have to understand where you were. And that's why I was frustrated, because there's a crossing point there, but I didn't realize there's a crossing point. So most people might be listening to me thinking, if I, Victor, how do I know I'm at that point? If you're at that point, you know you're at that point, because it will feel very, very frustrating. It's like someone putting you in a box and wrapping you all up completely when you know you're bigger than the box. If you grow and get bigger than the box, you know, okay, fine, you know what, now it's getting uncomfortable in here. I need to move out of it. So it was a stage where I'm thinking, it's getting uncomfortable. I need to go bigger than this. And it's amazing how much everything changed after I realized that. It's just amazing.
But your frustration was because, as God told you, you were trying to sow
Yes.
in your harvest season.
Yes.
So does that mean that when anybody's frustrated,
Yeah.
does it mean that it's because I'm trying to sow in my harvest season, or does it mean something else?
No, it could mean anything else. Because in the book, I talked about 4 different seasons, which I talked about the first, which Nigerians call it Hamatan. Because I grew up in northern Nigeria.
Winter, summer.
Because I grew up in... I grew up in northern Nigeria, so it's called it Hamatan when it gets really foggy and planes can't even land and everything else because it's just thick dust in the air. So there's no clarity then, you see, you find yourself. Then there's sowing season when you say, okay, this is what I want to do, I'm going to put some seed in the ground. Then you go up to, because you have to protect the seed, you have to make sure it grows properly. And then from the seed, obviously, then you go on to the harvest. But the harvest, most people think, okay, harvest time is where I can just chill out and do nothing kind of thing. But no, you have to, there's a point where you have to go back in the farm again. And there's a lot of work that comes to harvest at the end of the day when you get to the harvest point of your lives. So you might be at different stages, but not realizing you're actually at different stages. But because you don't realize it's time to move on, because you could have moved from sowing now. So there's a time when you can find, I put that seed in the ground now. So this is the season in which I'm supposed to be protecting the seed. I'm supposed to be going back to the farm to go and till the ground, make sure everything is coming out nicely, make sure it's nicely watered, make sure there's no weed going around it, make sure all that time. So if you don't realize you should be on that time, you might be busy still trying to put seed in the ground, even though you should be in the next stage of your lives. So it could be any stage, any season of your life that you're in. But the most important thing is, it's up to you to sit down and think, fine, how do I work out what season this is? And then I know, okay, but what needs to come next? Because the thing about seasons, they're arranged more or less the same way. The same way like we have in the UK too, where you have the winter, then you have the autumn, then we go into summer, then we go around again, the clocks change, it gets darker, and we keep going around in full circle. So is that kind of way in which you have to understand, okay, fine, you know what? The time has moved on now. I need that shift in my life.
So how do I identify what season I'm in?
So now, thing about seasons too is, if you're in a season, there are different seasons of life too. So I can be a different season in my marriage. I could be a different season in my career. You can be a different season in business. You can be you're all down to focus on what is. So you have to look at everything differently. Okay, my marriage now. If you're feeling frustration, there is where you have to ask the question: what season is this actually in my marriage? You understand? If you're feeling frustrated, maybe your career, you have to think about, okay, fine, what season is this in my career? So I think it's I can talk about it in a big picture. You see, just for anyone who's watching, maybe to get a picture of it now. But it's up to you to sit back and say, okay, because most of the time you have to look at where you're heading towards and where you're coming from. Then it's easier to work out where you are. You understand? So if you're trying to work out where you want to get to, you're trying to work out where you are, it's easier to work it out based on where you're trying to get to and where you're coming from. So if you look back and say, I've been putting in so much work in this place, I've been working so hard. So let's say you walk in an office now, you're thinking, I've been turning up every day. So these are all seeds you've been sowing. I've been having these conversations, I've been doing loads of stuff. I think by now, so you're getting frustrated now, you see. So you should be moving away from this season now. So maybe you're moving towards where you have to protect everything. Because one thing is very common, you walk in an office, you think everyone can see, but maybe they can't. So with all those seeds you've sown, it's time to start making them visible, you understand? So you have to start talking about, it sounds like you're bragging, but hey, in the world we live in now, especially when you walk in the corporate world, you get to put yourself out there and say, this is what I've done, that's what I've done. So by you start to talk about what you've done, you're making your seeds you've grown start showing, and people start noticing you, see? So you're moving on to another stage now. So by the time you go on to that next stage now, you can finally say, okay, fine, things are beginning to grow now. I'm going to get my food raised and I'm going to get my harvest. So you have to look at first, what part of your life do you need? At what season are you at what part of your life? Where is it? Because sometimes you can be frustrated at work, but not frustrated in your house. You could be frustrated at home, maybe your marriage, but maybe not. You could be frustrated as a father, because I'm a father of 3 boys. So it could be a case whereby the twins just became teenagers now. It's a different season for us. So it's a season now where I have to pay serious attention to everything they do, because they're teenagers now, to make sure that I'm putting them on the right path as they get older. So there's all those factors that come into play. So if I'm feeling frustrated in that area, I could feel I'm not doing well as a father. I need to do better. Because once you're not doing well, that's where frustration kicks in. Frustration basically is, I know I can do better than this. I know I'm worth better than this. But I'm not. So you just know I'm not supposed to be here. And that's the point when you realize and say, I'm not supposed to be here. Then that's the point where I think, okay, fine, now it's time to move. But it takes a lot of battle to move forward, because we can get comfortable in where we are. So you always need that extra push. And that's where people come in, mentors, coaches, people need to come around to encourage you on how to move from that stage to the next one.
So when you heard the voice of God, what did you do next?
So I stood there and I said, it was more like a eureka moment, anything like that. I was like, whoa, this is it. This is it. This is it. So I went upstairs anyway. Obviously, finally got my coffee after I realized I came out of my trance, I'll say. And then I went and wrote it down. I got a journal and wrote it down. I'm thinking, okay, fine. Why? I'm like, what does this mean then? And then that's when I started to look at where I was coming from. Then I realized, I've been sowing here. And I'm thinking about, okay, fine, where were you planning to go to next? And I realized, I was just about to go and sow again. And that's when the message came out. And the next time I went out to speak, somebody actually sponsored it. And that was the first time somebody paid and sponsored for the trip. You understand? So that's you see, this is how things just change all of a sudden. Because I think the thing about life is all about that. Once that perspective shifts, your eyes begin to see things differently and everything just changes from there. So the next time I was out speaking, somebody paid for it. And this happened in late 2017. 2018, I spoke and traveled so much, it was even unbelievable. Even me, myself, at the end of the year, I was thinking to myself, I can't believe I've been to so many places. I'm literally coming back and then, I'm going to go again. So many countries, and I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. So it's just one of those things where I just said to myself, this is just that realization. As in, this is it. And once that perspective shifted, I began to see where the opportunities were. And that's how everything changed from there.
So you've mentioned the different seasons, right?
Yes.
So this shift, from your seed time into your harvest season.
Time. Yeah.
So is this something you have to make happen yourself?
Exactly.
Or is it something that just since the seasons change themselves, it's just going to happen? What do we need to do
to a large extent, when you look at the seasons of life generally, it's like we can't control what's changing around us. And so if we're not growing, the world is going to move away and leave us where we are. And that's why it's important for us to realize the seasons too. So we don't have control about the seasons changing. So we have to pay attention to it, understand when it is shifted, and then move along. And that's what's key for us, because we don't have any control over it. Because whether you like it or not, things keep moving. Every day, things are moving on. So you choose, am I going to sit where I am, or am I going to move on with what's happening? If you're in an office, people are getting promoted, people are moving on. And you're thinking to yourself, I've been turning up, working hard every time, nothing's happening. And then that's when you realize, no. These things are moved on. I need to move along too. If you're in marriage, you might be thinking, okay, fine. You're getting, the years are moving on in the marriage. You can't stop the clock. You can't say, okay, because I've been married 15 years. I've seen different seasons of that marriage, right from what we used to call the who sent you stage, when you when you arrive in the house, you're like, oh, so me and this woman is me and you here now forever. I need to begin to realize, when you're used to just having your own space, now you have to share with somebody else, different ways of thinking, different ways. So that's like, so there's different seasons of it. And the children come, you have to think, oh, wow, now there's children, both of you forget yourselves so you have to pay attention. The things are going to move. So you can't sit still and say, okay, now children have come, I'm going to remain where I am. No, you can't remain where you are, because now you got children. Look after. Responsibilities are more on your head now. So your way of thinking has changed completely. So that's things we have to all pay attention to. So we don't have control of the seasons changing, but we have control of what we do, we as people. I'm a strong believer in responsibility. I will rarely ever say to somebody, oh, no, it's not my fault. No. Even if somebody walks down the road now and calls me a funny name, I always say to myself, why did he say that now? What got in his head that he said that? I know I have no control over him insulting me, but I have control on how I feel about him. If he calls me a fool, like I said to myself, well, I know I'm not a fool, so why am I bothered? I don't even know him anyway, so who cares? And that's kind of where I look at life, you see. So when we all start taking 100% responsibility for our lives and wherever we find ourselves and where we're going to, we're going to make sure we follow these seasons along. The seasons are going to move on, whether we like it or not. It's raining out there now. We're coming to winter, whether we like it or not. But the thing is, we just have to make sure that I can choose to say, yeah, I know it's winter, but I'm not going to wear a jacket. I'm not going to carry an umbrella. Oh, you can do that if you want to. You're going to get soaked. When you get soaked, what happens? You're going to get frustrated. So we have to follow whether we like it or not. We have a choice to change, but the seasons themselves keep going.
We need to adapt to it.
We need to adapt to that. That's the word, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you find yourself in that position where you feel frustrated, you feel stuck, you feel, okay, what do I do next? What are the practical steps you take to identify, okay, this is the season I'm in, this is what's going on, this is what I need to do, this is how I'm going to adapt, or this is how I'm going to take responsibility. Can you give us some practical steps?
Practical steps. One thing I love about his life is, and I think a lot of times, especially with the world we live in now, is people are trying to go so much into, okay, I want to help myself. Now, self-help is very good. There's books you can read about stuff. There's videos you can watch on YouTube about different things. But one thing I know for sure is asking for help is always key. If you don't have a mentor or someone to coach you along the way, that's where you're going to struggle. And I think if there's anything I'm going to say, even if I don't give you any other practical thing, this is the starting point. Because there's so many times in which if you're in the picture, you can't see the frame. You see? So because if you can't see it because you're in the picture. There's so much in which is happening all around you. You have two eyes that are going this way. What's happening behind you, you don't know. So it's somebody else, you sitting there now can see what's going on behind me. So it's up to me to go to somebody and say, okay, look, this is where I am. This is what's happening. I can see. What can you see behind me? And you'd be amazed at how much people can actually tell you. So we've come to a stage where everybody says, yeah, you can learn everything on YouTube. But yes, most things on YouTube, yes, is good. Yes, can learn loads of things on YouTube. But when you bring things all the way down, you can learn how to fix a tap. You can learn how to do, that's all practical things you can do. But when you look at yourself, everybody's unique in their own kind of way. You have to speak to somebody who will understand you. And most of the time, it's someone who doesn't know you, because someone who knows you has already put you in a box anyway. So you might say, okay, yeah, I want to speak to my husband. Or I can say, yeah, I'll just speak to my wife. Yes, there's some things my wife sees and will know, but she has her own perspective of me in her head, because as in English, in Nigeria, we say, they see me finish there. Exactly. So they see me finish there. So she knows everything about me. So if I try and she constantly put me back in that box. She will struggle.
She knows
me, yeah. So I need to go to somebody who doesn't know me, have the conversation, so the person is speaking from a place of open-mindedness. And I think that's where the absolute key is. A lot of people get stuck in there because they just don't want to know, I don't want to talk to anybody, or they can't find people to trust to talk to.
Yeah.
That's another problem we're facing in the world too. Too many people have been judgmental and everything else, and that's why people, so maybe they've spoken to somebody once, and they heard it somewhere else, and that was it. So from that point, they will say, you know what, I'm not going to speak to anybody again. And they'll bottle it all up with frustration and everything else. So I think for me, the practical key, the one thing I can say every single time is go and talk to somebody, a mentor, a coach. Some people might say, oh, no, it's too expensive, whatever it is now. There are different levels. You will find some at the level that you are, which maybe you can afford, or maybe if it's you can even start to talk to a friend, discuss for free. You know, it might be a good starting point for you. Then you can begin to think, where do I expand and where do I grow this from here? So I think that's the number one practicality I can say for you. Secondly, I'll say networking played a significant role in me understanding seasons, understanding myself, where to move out from. You know, putting myself in rooms with people who were already more or less got to where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
You know, so because it gives me that thinking, okay, fine, you know, I'm beginning to understand things better because it helped me to break out. You know, so I was putting myself in the rooms, okay, fine, you know what, yes, it's an event, yes, I'll pay, whatever it's going to cost me, I get in there. Sorry, it involves money a lot of times, but but there are things in which life is all about value. Where you put in is where you get out of it, you see. So, and then if you don't put anything into it, you don't value it, and that's another problem too. So if you put that value into it, you turn up in the rooms and you listen to people, you're talking to people, you're having the conversations, and you find yourself talking about where you are. And then someone even tells you about how they were there before, how they got out of it. And I think that's a really, really practical thing. Because sometimes, you know, when you isolate yourself, you know, because it's very easy to isolate yourself. Because if you hear what I was saying, I said I was standing alone in the kitchen, just gazing out the window. That's isolation, you see. But yes, isolation has its place. In that point, I found an answer to where I was. But sometimes we isolate ourselves and we let our brain to keep going around in circles, telling us all those lies and everything else. And we keep believing and we do nothing about it. So and that's what's key for us. So I think if I'm going to I'll just give you two, which is obviously one most importantly is go and talk to somebody. That more or less will solve 90% of the problem because they will be able to tell you, they can see it, you know, because most people, we have so much potential in ourselves. So yeah, so I was standing in the kitchen, kettle is boiling. I totally even forgotten about the kettle that was actually boiling behind because I was just so much in a whole different world. I was standing there looking out the window, just gazing. It was one of these rainy days. I was just looking, just days lost. And I now heard these words just said to me, I said, Victor, why are you trying to sow in your harvest season? And it's like something just dropped as in, whoa. It was like the answer to exactly what I needed to hear at the time. Because for 40 years, I had been sowing and sowing and sowing, and I just felt it was time for me to start to reap. But I was at crossroads because I was actually about to go and sow again. So when I thought about that, and I went upstairs, I wrote it down, and I just started thinking about it. And that's mainly where the book was born from. Because if I go back and say, okay, fine, from the sowing side of the whole things, everybody has a seed. And that seed is your thoughts, that idea that drops in your head. And that seed drops in your head at a particular time, I need to do this. So for me, the idea was, you got a message, a transmission of a message. My focus was to change the way people can just think better, think differently about the way they look at life and the way they do things. You'd be amazed at how much it can transform their lives.
What does that word sowing mean? You said for 40 years you had been sowing.
Yeah.
What do you mean by sowing? Do you mean investing in yourself?
Exactly, yeah. So it's like when I say sowing, I mean, okay, if I go back to when I started as a speaker, you start from the part where if you're trying to be a speaker, as I mentioned earlier, the times in which you have to just do things for free, which is mainly the sewing. So the key thing is trying to put yourself on the stage. Now, in my own case, when I started, I was thinking about, okay, fine, how do I get onto a stage? I used social media a bit then. I think then Instagram wasn't really out there. It was mostly Facebook then. I used Facebook a bit then, recorded short videos just using my phone. Then I now decided, okay, fine. And now I need to get on a physical stage. How do I get on a physical stage? Well, if someone would just invite you to a physical stage, chances were pretty low. So I said, okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create my own events. And that idea came out of when I was listening to a DJ who was talking to like an older DJ. And the DJ was telling her, she was like, yeah, I'm trying to get into big London clubs and perform and everything else. And the DJ said to her, look, if nobody's inviting you to their own party, why don't you throw your own party?
Yeah.
You see? So when I heard that, I was like, ooh, that's it. So I decided, okay, why don't I put together my own event? So I decided to do my own event. I said, okay, fine, where am I going to put this event together now? Because obviously I'm Nigerian. I'm very, very, my heart is very heavy for Nigeria. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to put an event up in Nigeria. How are you going to do it? Who do you know? Do you know any promoters? Answer was no. So I just went on LinkedIn. And the thing about life is when you're looking for something, you're bound to find it. Went on LinkedIn, found just randomly came across somebody. And I looked at like, oh, we're actually from the same northeastern part of Nigeria. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Sent her a message on LinkedIn. I said, oh, I've noticed you have an event coming up and things like that. I'm more than happy to come for the event. I'm a speaker and this and that. And then eventually, I think the event eventually didn't hold. I don't know for whatever reason. And I said, okay, fine. I'm still going to come to Nigeria anyway and then we'll have a chat. So while I was in Nigeria, we went to have a chat and I told her what I was trying to do, run events, speakers and everything else. And then I had an idea for an event called Coffee Business Morning. So people come around, have coffee, have a chat, and then obviously there's a few speakers and everything else. And obviously I'll be one of the speakers because my events I speak. So that was the whole idea. So she said, yeah, I know a guy who's quite nice. The guy's name was Charles. Yeah, I'll take you down and come and see him. So we went up to him. We had the conversation with him. He happened to be in my secondary school too in Lagos. So because we're the same secondary school, everything clicked. I think it was like 2 or 3 years my junior. So everything clicked anyway. We got talking. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. So because they have a venue was sorted. Oh yeah, we invited other guys to come and speak, no problem at all. So 3 of us, I speak, he speaks, another guy comes to speak, no problem at all. Flyers done, everything done.
Wow.
So I came back to England, we put a date, I went back and the event took place. So it's amazing because once the event took place, that's where everything continued from there because I built my own stage.
Yeah.
So after I came back, I'm thinking, what's next? Then obviously, and I was just praying in the morning, because I'm a Christian, so I pray. Praying in the morning, I just heard say to me, Victor, go to Yola. Now, Yola is the northeastern part of Nigeria. It's a very tiny place. I'm thinking of going global and going big. And I'm thinking, God, why are you sending me to a tiny corner? So the same as seeds too. Seeds and that, they're very tiny, very, very tiny. So I went back into Yola. I did another event in Yola too, which was quite amazing. The turnout was massive. And even while I was in Yola, and I was on TV about 4 times, radio interviews, everything was just coming my way. And you're amazed at how once you step out, things just start throwing your way.
And this is because you created your own stage.
Exactly, my own stage, exactly. Yeah. And so the seed for me was that thought, I want to be a speaker, I want to go out there and speak, I want to do stuff. And so as soon as I started doing that, so I was sowing all those seeds. The events were put up by myself. I paid for all of them. You see, I paid for flights to go to Nigeria. I paid for the venues. I'm paying for to get the nibbles that people are having there. I'm paying for everything. So I'm putting money all into it. So it gets to a point now, you're sowing those seeds. You're at a point where you're thinking, okay, fine, what next for you? So the seed at the beginning is always that thought that you have in your head, which is the seed. So the seed drops in you as a thought. You can choose to take the seed. Some people eat their seeds sometimes. Exactly. Some people eat it. Some people plant it. But if you keep a seed for too long without putting it in the ground, it's going to dry up and become useless.
So you said you've been doing this for 40 years.
Yeah.
40 years of investing in yourself.
No, not 40 years. For that was like 2017. It's about 2-3 years. I'm not that old. I'm still young.
Sorry, I was going to ask how old you are.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'll say it politely.
Yeah. I said for years I've been doing that. So I was doing that for years, like for the whole of maybe 2015, 2016. You're trying to sow the seeds and trying to make things grow. And that's why I just kept focusing on doing. But in as much as I went back into Yola, so the northeast of Nigeria, and did the events. Those events in the small area, and that's where I want to say to anybody who's trying to build, was what actually springboarded me into the bigger stages.
The events in Yola.
Exactly, yes. That's because obviously with social media, everyone saw that. Oh, I saw you speaking down and wherever it is now. And because as a speaker, my target most of the time was to build that value so I get invited. You see, and that was what was key for me. So I had to focus on building that value. So the seed to start with is what you put in the ground. So I put loads of seeds in the ground by investing in myself, by investing in other people, by investing in creating those events to put myself on the stage. Those are all the seeds I put in my ground. So the first thing obviously is the seed. And normally when you have the seed in your hand, which that's when you talk about the weather, when I was talking about Harmattan earlier, because sometimes you have the seed and you're thinking, what do I do with this? You have no clarity on what to do with it.
Sorry, so the first season is the seed, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you're given a seed to start with. Then what to do with the seed. You got to find clarity what to do with the seed. That's what I'm talking about Harmattan season now. You see, so I had the seed, I planted the seed, but sometimes you begin to think, am I doing the right things? What is the clarity? So you begin to find clarity. And obviously winter or Harmattan is known for the fog.
Yeah.
It's always dark
Dryness,
in winter.
exactly,
You can't see clearly.
Yeah.
So because you can't see clearly, you have to find yourself in different places. And some of the tools for that is when I say, if you go and network with people, you have to, when I say networking with people, I say sharing my ideas with them. And when I share the ideas with them, they'll listen to me. Some are like, oh, no, it's never going to work. Some, it happens all the time, you know. And then when people say to me it's not going to work, I always say to them, what makes you think it's not going to work? And most of the time, people don't even have answers to it. They just feel it's not going to work. There's no proof on how it's not going to work. Have you done it before? Some people say to you, yes, I've done it before. Okay, fine. You listen to them. What are the mistakes they made? So now you're building that clarity all along the way. You know, so you're building that clarity all along the way. So now you build that clarity. You got the seed. You build the clarity with it. Then you sow the seeds. You know, seeds goes in the ground now. Seeds are in the ground. Everything is going. You have to nurture the seeds. You have to protect them. If you don't protect your seeds, because sometimes if you go and share your ideas in the midst of the wrong people,
it's gone.
when they slaughter the ideas, even you yourself will walk out there thinking, oh my Lord, what have I just done? You see, so you have to protect it, you know, you have to protect it. You have the seed, you found clarity, which is obviously the winter, whatever it is, it goes in the ground, you have to protect it while it's in the ground. You know, that's a very important time. And then
sorry, if we can pause there for a second. Yeah. Sorry, there's a question that just, it's because of what you said earlier. And I just, you know, some people will tell you, okay, if you're so good at speaking, or if you're so good at making movies, you know, why is your movie not here? You know, if you're so good at speaking, why are they not inviting you yet to go and speak? Why are you having to go and make your own stage? What do you have to say about that? Because if you'd never made your own stage, if you never created your own platform, nobody would have heard about you.
Exactly.
So what do you have to say about that?
But if you're so good at speaking, nobody knows you're good at speaking. If you don't go on a stage, nobody knows you're good at speaking. I've seen people who do Instagram live videos, who do videos, everything, with no disrespect to them, but when you meet them face to face, it's different. You know, sometimes it's easier to hide behind a camera than it is when you stand at your stage. You know, when you go on a stage, you can ask any speaker, no matter how big they are in the world, once you climb on that stage and you know you're walking up those stairs and you turn around and you see all those people in the room, you know, when you look up like this, you know, your heart, first thing goes like, whoa. Because they're all like sitting down there, you know like when like a mother hen, you know, with the food, and they're all looking up and saying, okay, fine.
Waiting to hear what
exactly. What is he going to say? And you're thinking, I need to feed all these people with valid information. You understand? As in, they need to leave here not the same as they came in here. So I owe these people this responsibility. So it's easy to run it that way. So if you don't put yourself on the stage, you don't create yours and go on that stage, how will anyone know you're good?
If you don't invest in yourself, bring yourself.
Exactly. So you have to invest in yourself to bring yourself to stage in which, you know what, I can now go on these stages and then deliver. Because to be honest with you, even now we're on this podcast now, you trusted me to come on this podcast and deliver value to your audience. You understand? And in the same way, if somebody gives you a microphone, you know, it takes a lot for someone to hand you a microphone. It takes a lot of trust. Because sometimes you can give someone a microphone, he just says one or two things, and it could damage your reputation. Like, literally, you might never come back again. You know? So it takes a lot of trust to hand someone a microphone. So there's a lot of responsibility to it. So if someone says to you, oh, well, if you're good at what you're doing, why? And this question goes back to, you know what, if nobody knows you can speak, how are they going to call you to come and speak? They're not going to do that. So let's see if he's a friend that says, okay, well, we're in the same school before, so maybe I know him. Then, but that's not the reality. You want a case whereby you're speaking on a big stage, they need to know you first.
So what advice do you have to give to people who haven't been called to a stage yet? You know, what advice do you have to give to them? Should they just go and start building their own platform?
It's a lot easier now, to be honest with you, because now with social media, there's so much you can do. So with YouTube channels, with podcasts like this, with Instagram, with Facebook, you know, there's so much more you can do to it. But I know to a large extent, most people won't just pull you in. So if you're delivering solid value, you understand? If you're delivering you have to deep studies, solid value that you're delivering every time, and then somebody's watching and watching and watching for a while, there's going to get to a point where, you know what, yeah, I think I'm going to get this guy in. You see, and that's one state of things. But also, you as a person, you have to develop yourself. You have to read a lot. You have to practice a lot. You have to do so much stuff. So for me, putting myself on my own stage, because obviously if I go back when I started, social media obviously was around then, but maybe Instagram wasn't as strong as it is now. It was mostly Facebook anyway. And then maybe I think YouTube has been around for some time. So maybe I just sort of felt, you know what, I needed to speed this thing up. Because one way of speeding it up actually is just on that stage, and that's it. Because if anyone listens to me now, which I can say, a good example I can give, like as self-proof is, when I came back from Yola after speaking, and someone asked me to MC an event, as I was MCing that event, then somebody else who came for the event now invited me to go and MC the event in Albania. So as I went to Albania to MC the event, and I met somebody else who now invited me to Ghana to come and speak. And this is a lady that came all the way from America to attend the event in Albania, now invites me to Ghana to come and speak. So when I was in Ghana finished speaking, and I met somebody else who now invited me to Kenya to come and speak. So when I was in Kenya, the person that invited me back to Kenya, I went to Kenya twice for that now, and that same person invited me back again to Rwanda to speak, and then was supposed to go to Malawi too to speak, but obviously that's when COVID hit in 2020, so that event in Malawi went online. You see, so if you look at how the trend moved, you know, in fact, and the same people that invited me to Albania invited me back to come and MC the event again in New York. You see, so if you look at how the whole flow went, it all started from in Yola, someone spotted me as in, oh, he's on the stage there, so obviously must have something to offer. Okay, do you know what? Come and and MC was more or less like something I came into. I didn't plan to be MC, I was just a speaker kind of thing. But I found myself also MCing and speaking. But I think I like both because in as much as you ask me which one to choose, I'd rather speak than MC. But the thing about MCing is you're on your feet the whole day. Speaker, you can go in, deliver your speech and disappear. MC, your brain is literally switched on from the beginning of the event to the end of the event. You have to catch everything everybody's saying. You have to make sure
you have to keep them happy.
And the tempo. You have to do. So it is a lot hard work to MC speaking here. But because I find it easier, because I'm a speaker, I know what a speaker expects. So it makes my life a lot easier when I'm actually doing that. So yeah, so to be honest with you, I think anyone who's watching and saying, the most important thing is a faster way, obviously, is build your own stage. Or, I said, the time now, the people which you can approach them now and say, look, I can see you having an event down there. Do you mind is it okay for me? The person might say to you, let me watch some of your videos and see. Nothing wrong with asking if you need to sometimes, if you want to accelerate your processes. But also, if you're delivering solid value and people can see, they know it, they will definitely call you into the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
So back to those seasons of life again. So you mentioned the sowing.
Yeah.
You mentioned winter or Hamatan.
Clarity, yeah.
Yeah, so give us some more explanation about those seasons.
All right, so the winter Hamatan, as I said, is the one that you need clarity on that one. And that's where you have to go to networking events, you got to get a mentor or a coach to actually speak to. You know, you have to you have to invest in yourself. You have to study yourself, you see books. Like, one thing I did was I looked to find where am I trying to get to and who are the guys in that field. You know, so I watched loads of their videos, how they're doing, how they present themselves, how they're doing, the people like Les Brown and Tony Robbins and the big ones are out there, like how they delivering these talks, how they doing these things, how they, you read their books too and try to understand how they get to all those kind of places. So those are the key things I did in that season too, to get absolute clarity. And then obviously the seeds now went in the ground, and I had to protect those seeds, make sure they grew. You know, I said to you, guard them really nicely.
Yes.
Once they grow and they're all nice and ripe, then that's when you now go for your harvest. Now, the harvest is a time where people feel I have arrived. You know, okay, I've totally arrived.
I made
it now. I can sit back and relax. But the harvest comes with a lot of responsibilities now because now you're at a certain level. So you have to maintain that level to a very large extent. You have to keep your brain ticking every single time. You have to know what's going on. You have to keep reading and understanding what you're actually going to talk about. You know, you have to get better at your speeches because now you're getting the bigger stages now, which obviously harvest more you have to put in. So I've realized you find more work to do in the harvest because expectations are actually higher now.
Wow.
You know, because obviously there's a speech you can do maybe 2 years ago that you can get away with it because he's new. But you can't be doing that now because you have a reputation to protect. So if you don't do that now, all you're going to do is just kill if all you've worked for. I tell you now, social media can die in 2 seconds. so you have to make sure you maintain it. So that's why I said to you, you have to return to the farm for the harvest. You know, you have to go back in the farm and go and take your harvest where it's actually from. So you have to return, like you find all this. So all the people you worked with, you know, maybe back in the days, they're the ones that start calling you back again to go back and go and do again, because obviously you delivered very well. Now the higher level you're delivering again now. So maybe some things you did maybe for free before now, it comes through now, an invoice is coming your way now. Things have changed now, you understand? And you have that confidence to say, yeah, you need to pay for this event, or yeah, and there are times in which you will still do things for free, but there'll be mutual agreements based on different things. Why, you know, okay, I'm not going to charge you, but we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Or sometimes you can say, I'm not going to charge you, but I want all the videos, I want everything, because I want to use that for promotions. So it all depends on what's going on and what you choose to do at a certain time. So, and that's where the harvest, because now you're in the harvesting, you've established, more or less, I use the word established, you can now feel comfortable to ask for payments, you can feel comfortable to, sometimes you don't even have to ask, people just
pay
offer. Yeah, exactly.
Because they can see your value.
They can see the
They've
value
seen all the
actually
work
bringing to
you've
the table.
done. Yeah.
So the biggest part that most people struggle with is that harvest, where they get to the harvest and this sort of thing have arrived, and then they totally now begin to ignore everything they actually acted with. So and it could easily destroy everything they actually worked for. So you need to return to the farm. The work actually gets more at the harvest than even at the beginning.
Wow. So I think from everything you said, I think the thing that's really stuck with me is building your own stage.
Yeah. Wow.
Because if you never built your own stage,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have gotten to where you are
No,
now. You would have been waiting for other people to notice you or
Yes.
see your worth,
Yeah.
you know. But
Yeah.
when you built your stage, you were able to build your worth and show them, you
exactly.
know, this is my value.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
called you to all those other places.
Yeah.
So I just want to get some advice or some tips on building your own stage.
Yeah.
For someone else might be watching out there, how can they build their stage? Someone who might find themselves in that position where they're thinking, oh, I need these people to call me, these people to acknowledge me.
Yeah.
What can they do to build their own platform?
Yeah, so to build your own platform mainly, as I say, obviously starts with, these days, everything technology starts with social media, obviously. You build a social media platform. When people go on your page to see and understand, like you find, what does this guy do? What does he speak about? You see, if you go to my page now, I don't give like money advice or anything else. So people need to understand, like you find, all I focus on is inspiration, transformation. And that's mainly what I focus on. So people need to understand, like you find, what's your message? What are you talking about? So if someone goes on your page, you can see all that. So the first stage you can build is social media, which is really, really out there. Anyone can use it. You can make videos. In fact, if you don't want to do lives, you can just record it. Go back and watch it. They might look as good as it looks, but don't worry about it. Just record it and just put it out there. Half the time, most of us watch ourselves and you're thinking, oh no, is that me? Did I just do that? But hey, that's the way it goes. So that's actually the first stage. Secondly, I think if you build relationships find yourself in a room with other speakers, as in that is very, very important. So you have to go to events, you know, and when you go to events, try and interact with as much as possible. Try and interact with the speakers, you know, as the people who actually speak at the events, you know. And then when you're talking to them, I said to them, you know, I'm actually thinking about, you know, I'm a speaker myself too. I want to do this and that. There's an event that I spoke at in Lagos. I just went to an event. I was talking to the guy who organized the event here in London. And then he just said, so we just got talking now. Oh, you have a speaker event? Yeah, you know what? Can you come and speak at an event in Lagos? And he said, that was it, just by having that conversation. So you can't stay at home and say, well, they come and find me here. You have to go out. You have to be at events. I know we're in an era of everybody says everything can be done online, and I don't go any events again. I just do my webinars online or whatever it is now. But how will you really get that interaction you want if you don't go out there and actually meet the people? So call me old-fashioned. I'm very human conversation kind of person. So I encourage you, if you want to go out there, be at events where actually speakers speaking, and try as much as possible when you're at those events, you know, to just interact with the speakers themselves. You know, some of them might be very big events in which you might not be able to get to the speakers, and maybe they're massive speakers, so you can't get close to them. But there are some events, with small events, just go out there and speak to them, this thing. There's a group I joined, which is Toastmasters, which really helped me too. I know some of you've heard about it too. So it's a very good platform too. They give you an opportunity to speak out there too, because obviously you prepare speeches, you deliver speeches, then they give you feedback on the speeches. So I think which is solid. So that's where I started that too. So that gave me the courage of standing on the stage and doing the speeches and how to write the speeches, taking the feedback on board too. So all that played a role. So most importantly, I'll say to you, get a big platform online, interact with other speakers, go out there, read lots of books, watch other people who are doing stuff that you're actually doing. And also, as much as possible, if you can join speaking groups, not just, there's so many other ones around you can join. You can just sort of give you opportunity to just practice your speaking. And once you build that confidence, is off you go from there.
There's something normally crosses my mind is like there's so many people online doing the same thing. There might be so
Yeah.
many other speakers out there.
Yeah.
Sometimes, do you feel like demotivated, thinking, "Oh, somebody else is probably talking about this subject. Somebody else is probably doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What makes my own stuff unique?"
Yeah. It happens. The day I did a talk, and then after I posted it, someone out said, this was so timely. I needed to hear this. And you know what? I didn't even want to do the talk because I was thinking to myself, there's nothing in this. Everybody knows this anyway.
Yeah.
But I always get that feeling like a seed. Once the seed drops in my mind, I say, talk about this. I always feel I didn't talk about this then. Because I'm a kind of person which I don't care about numbers. I'm not for the numbers at all. I just feel if I can just touch that one person somewhere, because you'll be amazed what that one person could be transformed into that can touch 50 million or 100 million.
Yeah.
There's billions of people in this world. People can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, but everybody has a different opinion. And so there's no way what I'm going to say is going to be exactly the same as what somebody else is going to say. I can do a talk on never ever give up and have a totally different twist and angle to it to somebody else doing it. But never give up is one of the most common speeches that almost everybody talks about. You see, but still, I can say comfortably still do one because I do not know. There might be somebody who relates to me. The person might be looking at it and saying, there's something about this guy that makes me see myself in him. And so I'm going to listen to him. And then the message goes out. So you could miss that person because, and the person might be waiting for you to have to come to, and then you missed it out because you felt, there's too many people out there, whichever way it is. There can never be too many people out there saying the same thing. And we can't be saying the same thing. We are all saying different things. Everybody's life experience is different. We're all on a different journey. So there's no way we can be the same. So if you're listening to this and saying to yourself, as the question you asked, there's too many out there. What's the point of me adding to the numbers? It's the same way I would say to you, there's not too many out there. There's only one of you. So they cannot be, so you're not adding to numbers because there's only one of you. So only you can deliver that message in the way it delivered based on your own experience. And there's somebody out there who needs to hear it the way you have delivered it so that their lives can be transformed too. So don't hold back and think there's too many out there. No, there's none. There's only one of you. So it's definitely not too many.
Wow. Thank you. Because sometimes that bothers me. I'm just like, why am I bothering to do this? Somebody else is probably talking about that.
It's not a game of numbers. I don't believe in the numbers. I just believe, I just do it. Just put it out there. And the good thing I like about now the world is the social media. You can do, I've seen people in which nobody knew them. They did videos maybe 5-10 years ago. One day, someone takes a clip. There's an American pastor. Someone took a clip and put it on Twitter or Instagram, wherever he is now. Boom, he blew. As a straight away. This is years old video. You can imagine. So it's the same way in which we keep thinking. We just don't know. You just keep planting them there. You hear of songs these days. One of the songs that came out of one of the movies recently, that there was a very old song. No one even heard about the song before. And now use it for a movie. Boom. So you just don't know when. And the good thing now is that you keep planting online. It's there. You might be 50 years time. You might not be around, but that might be what changed somebody's life. And the person will look back and be calling your name, even though when you're chilling in heaven, the person might be calling your name exactly, and you're there. So never ever hold back. Never hold back.
Wow, thank you so much, Victor. Yeah. And is there any other thing you'd want to say to people out there to encourage them?
To encourage everybody, I think one thing I always say to people is, I think there's one thing I know that I always run in my heart, which I want to say to people all the time is, when you look at life, just say to yourself, I don't believe in impossibilities. I don't believe in, you can't do it and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's one thing I live just to say to people, it's possible. That's what I just live to say to people, and I live my life in the way that I want to encourage others, just know you can do it. So you're listening now, you're thinking, you're feeling stuck, you're thinking, yes, I've sown for too long. I don't know what to do with it, or whichever way it is, just, as I said, if you just ask for help. So personally, I would just encourage everybody out there to just step out. It looks too far away. I can't touch it. I can't do it. I can't wave it. Just kick it out of the way. Just say to yourself, I just want to step out. I just want to do great things in the world. And guess what? There's somebody out there somewhere waiting to hear from you. So don't hold back from that person, please.
Wow. Thank you so much, Victor. If you enjoyed that, don't forget to like, comment, and of course, share. And you can check Victor out online today through his social media handles. Thank you for watching.